and welcome to another dose of virtual vitamin Z. This is DZS News for the week of August 30th, 2021. I'm your co-host, Stephen.
And I'm your co-host, Claire. As always, let's start with some Detroit Zoological Society updates. First, a recap on the biggest fundraiser for the zoo each year, Sunset at the Zoo, which took place on Friday evening. It's a fantastic, albeit slightly warm event, but we sold out all the tickets that we had capacity for. We had a bunch of food trucks and restaurants donate their time and talents to share all of their delectable goodies with our guests. We had a very successful live auction that raised quite a bit of money for the zoo and quite a bit of money for Day at the Zoo, one of our educational programs that reaches out to Metro Detroit school children who otherwise don't have an opportunity to visit and engage with the zoo. So all around a fantastic evening, great camaraderie, lots of wonderful people there to chat with. Stephen, you were there too. What were your thoughts for the evening?
I thought it was great. It seemed like everybody was having a great time. We had a bit of a scare because there was some storms earlier in the day, but they cleared up and it was actually a really nice evening, especially as the sun set at the zoo and the temperatures cooled down a little bit. It was just wonderful. There was a great band. I was actually monitoring the silent auction for a while and checked out some of those bids, and it seemed to do really well too, really generous bidding. And again, this all goes to support the DZS and our mission. And so thank you so much to everybody who attended. And even for those of you who didn't attend, but maybe made a donation through the silent auction or just a donation through another means, we really appreciate your ongoing support, especially at this time right now, as we are seeing that the future is bright, but we still really appreciate all of the support as we move in that positive direction.
Yeah, it was truly a fantastic evening for all the reasons that you just shared, Stephen. It's one of my favorite evenings at the zoo, albeit a tremendous amount of work to put together and actually implement and then clean up after. It is very well worth the effort and such a nice evening to see everybody come through and support the zoo in the way they did. So thank you to everybody who attended. If you didn't, keep an eye out for it. We'll be doing another Sunset at the Zoo next summer. Typically we do these in June. This time we moved it to August, but keep an eye out for it. It's a really, really fantastic evening to spend at the zoo with all of us.
So Claire, let's say that somebody wasn't able to attend Sunset at the Zoo, or maybe they did, but they want to continue supporting the DZS. One way that you can do that coming up really quickly is Run Wild, which is coming up next, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. And you have a couple of options for participating in this one. You can do it in person. There will be an on-site 5K run, which equates to about 3.2 miles or so. And then there's also the option to do it virtually. And the way that this works is that you can sign up for it. And then over the course of that weekend, you can go on a run on your own. Maybe it's in a neighborhood. Maybe you decide to run in a park, go out somewhere and do a trail run, whatever you feel compelled to do. You can do that run. And then if you would like, you can upload your time to a website, and then it'll share your time in relation to all the others. You'll be able to let everyone know, hey, I did this. And regardless of, how competitive you are, this is a great way to just get out and be physically active. You also get some cool swag. You get a really cool medal, and it's just a fun event, So we definitely encourage you all to try participating in it this year.
So Stephen, how's your training for the run going?
It's going well. With the hot weather, I will say that there were a couple of days when I was committed to run that I did not run. But the good news, I heard that the weather's supposed to be down below 80 moving forward, at least for the next couple of weeks, which for me is kind of amazing because I definitely run better when there isn't an oppressive wave of heat coming at you.
I agree. My running has dipped considerably over the course of the last week. Just a reminder that all the proceeds from Run Wild do benefit the animal health care efforts that we do here at the zoo and the Ruth Roby Glancy Animal Health Care Complex. So a reminder that all of that funding goes to a really, really good cause, and it is a fantastic opportunity. I guess it's a run-iversary. Would you call it a run-iversary since it's an anniversary and it's Run Wild?
Ooh, yeah, run-iversary.
I'm going to run with that.
That's 2 puns in a row.
I'm on fire.
Or one, I don't know, but that was.
We have a new blog post up. If you're not familiar with our blog, you should definitely check it out. There's a tremendous amount of really fantastic information written by zoo experts. It's on our homepage, DetroitZoo.org. If you scroll down, it's on the bottom right-hand side. This blog is featuring the habitat renovations that we actually featured here on DZS News throughout the entire project for Solaire over in the Holden Reptile Conservation Center. But the author does a fantastic job of writing about how these renovations were really important to Solaire as an individual, allowing him more opportunity to exhibit species-specific behaviors and increase the amount of space that Solaire has. I mean, like tenfold. There was a huge increase in how much space. There's a really cool graphic on the bottom, Stephen, that I was looking at this morning. Got a heat map, which actually shows where Solaire spends most of his time in the habitat, which can be really helpful if you're coming to visit the zoo to know where in the habitat to kind of look for him to see where he spends most of his time. But again, DetroitZoo.org, bottom right-hand corner, it's our new blog post all about Solaire. Make sure you check out those blogs. There really is a great amount of information in there. And again, it's all like insider in-depth information. So great resource.
Yeah, I was just looking through that today as well, and I was really excited. That was a really cool heat map. And I think that there's a lot that you can do with it, even before a visit, if you just check it out. And then as you're there, not just thinking about, okay, we know Solaire is going to be spending time in this section of the habitat, but also ask like, well, why? Why would Solaire choose to spend their time there as opposed to here? And it can give you some more insights as you visit into the design of the habitat and how it supports animal welfare.
That's a really good point, Stephen. That's a really good point. I wish we had heat maps for more of the animals. It'd be kind of cool to see and wonder
that
why.
Would be a lot of fun.
Stephen, back to you for our humane tip of the month.
Yeah, so we actually this month we have a humane tip of the month, and we're going to connect it to a humane resource of the month. So the humane tip of the month, as August turns to September, as we mentioned, the temperatures might be going down a little bit, right? And so one of the things we might start to think about is, oh, it's cooling down. Maybe I can take my dog out on a ride, and maybe it's all right to leave him in the car for a few minutes as I go in to get groceries or something like that. And one thing we want to really encourage you all is to recognize how quickly cars can heat up, even if the windows are cracked. And the reason for this is actually the same reason that we are currently facing climate change, because certain gases will act in the atmosphere as what's called a heat trapping blanket, right? And the car windows do the same thing. They create basically a greenhouse in this car. And so even if it's only, say, 80 degrees outside, very quickly, because the heat gets trapped in the car and moves around in it, the car can heat up very quickly past 90, 100, even more degrees. And dogs do not thermoregulate in the same way we humans do. They're not able to just sweat. And even if they were, really, if you've ever sat in a 100-degree car, it is not comfortable. It is not something that I would personally feel safe being in for any longer than maybe a minute or so. And so we encourage you, on the one hand, to think twice before you make a decision like that, and to, even if you really do want your dog to have a great time, maybe take them for a walk and then bring them back inside and then go out for a trip, as opposed to bringing them with you. I know it might seem like you're leaving them, behind, but it's for the best. And then another tip, or in addition to this tip, is you might be somebody who sees a dog who has been left in a hot car and think, I want to do something to help, but I really don't know what to do. And that leads me to our humane resource of the month, which is a website, mydogiscool.com. They've got some really cool graphics there of like a dog with shades in front of a fan. But this is basically a campaign that is devoted to protecting dogs from being left in hot cars. And on the one hand, they educate people about why you shouldn't leave dogs in hot cars, but they also help people who want to advocate for these dogs in the moment. So what that does is it can give you a guide of, what do I do when I see a dog left in a hot car? And one of the first things you would do is you would check with local businesses to see if you can contact the owner of the car, the human, who brought the dog there, and get them to open it up. Another thing you can do is you can call 911 and have the police help out. This is an emergency, especially when it's really hot out. And there are other steps you can take as well as resources that you can actually share within your community that will educate people, like signs that business owners might be able to put in their windows saying, hey, did you leave a dog in your car? Think twice before doing that kind of stuff. So we have the link below for you to visit that website. Really great resource. Currently, it's not being updated, so there are some legislation elements to it that might be out of date. But in terms of the general principles and practices, it is well worth checking out and sharing with others.
Those are great resources, Stephen. I mean, I know I've come across a dog in a car before and been concerned about their well-being. So it's really great to have that resource available to know, like, what are your resources, right? What should you be doing next to make sure that dog is safe? And actually, this weekend, it was so hot outside that I was driving around a little bit with my daughters doing some errands. Like, I won't let them go in the car, right, until I have it started up and get it rolling, because it's just so hot and it just heats up so fast. It's just kind of incredible how that whole car system works to heat up that quickly. And it's be really mindful of all of your family members, furry and not, making sure that everybody's safe in this kind of weather.
Yeah, and actually speaking of that, Claire, one of the things I don't know if everybody knows, but at the Detroit Zoo, that is something that our security staff monitor in our parking lots. If we see a dog left in a car, we will immediately activate, a process of trying to identify the owner of that vehicle, looking through camera footage to see where they are, things like that, because we know this is, this is a serious situation. This is an emergency, and we do everything we can to make sure that we help those dogs as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it really is a critical moment. So please, if you're coming to visit the zoo, leave your furry life companions at home where they're safe. Stephen, feature story, talking about the gray wolves, which I know is one of your favorite animals. So what's the story going on with the gray wolves right now?
If you visited the Detroit Zoo's Facebook page recently, you may have noticed a post about gray wolves and the endangered species list. And this post actually shared a link to a petition. And this petition is encouraging people to sign to restore protection for gray wolves. That's federal protection. So recently, the current presidential administration, is moving forward to uphold a decision that was made to remove gray wolves from the endangered species list through the Endangered Species Act. And they were listed in the first place because wolves were hunted almost to an extinction. And over the past several decades, the populations in the US have begun to recover. However, the delisting from the federal endangered species list has already created drastic impacts to wolf populations in several states. And we, as the DZS, as you know, are committed to conservation. And this conservation action occurs both at the Detroit Zoo as well as out in the field. And one of the ways that we can advocate and support conservation, we feel, is by encouraging you all to learn more about this issue. And if you feel compelled to put your name on this petition, to urge our nation's leaders to reconsider restoring federal protection for the gray wolf.
It's a really important topic, one that the Detroit Zoological Society has been involved in for many years. So this is a great opportunity to become involved, especially if you're passionate about protecting wildlife and wild places. So really great information, great opportunity to become an engaged citizen and advocate for a species.
So Claire, what do we have for this week's education program preview?
As always, we have a great lineup. We're starting off today, as always, at 11 a.m. with DZS News.
Next up on Tuesday, it is Saving Wildlife, and this one's going to focus on sea otter conservation, which is really exciting. They're a pretty cool species of animal.
On Wednesday morning, we'll be doing a virtual habitat chat featuring the butterfly garden, which is one of my favorite places to go, especially like in December when it's kind of dreary and it's been gray for like 3 weeks. I go into the butterfly garden and get a little recharge of the tropical setting in there.
Definitely. And then Thursday, we are going to be having an animal welfare tale episode on some bird rehabilitation. And this is going to focus on 2 species of birds who actually live locally. The peregrine falcon, who we mentioned in a previous episode a little bit, but we're going to go into some more detail about the juvenile peregrine falcon chick who was found and then rehabilitated and released, and also a juvenile black-crowned night heron chick. And so we'll go into a little bit more about the process of this, finding the issue, rehabilitating them, and releasing them. And we'll have some really cool footage to share too.
Both are really compelling stories. I'm really looking forward to Thursday morning. And then we'll wrap up the week on Friday before our long weekend here with the Medina University Habitat Projects, focusing on the grizzly bear habitat. Really excited to see the information that the students put together for that one.
And then as a reminder, first of all, there is continuing to be free outdoor educational programming at Belle Isle Nature Center that we encourage you to check out. Every month they come out with a new lineup. So check out their website to see what's going on this month. That said, if you can't make it down there for some reason, we also encourage you to check out Belle Isle Nature Center's virtual backyard, which has a lot of videos that share ways you can connect with the local environment without leaving your local area.
And we still have virtual vitamin Z resources available on the DetroitZoo.org website under the Education tab. And now I'm going to start advocating for teachers to check out these resources, as many of the students in our communities are going back to school last week, this week, next week, right after Labor Day. Tons of great information in there, tons of short videos that you could easily put into your curriculum. Be sure to check it out and use those resources as you see fit.
Well, that's all we have for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, stay healthy, Detroit.